Hey everyone, Charles here with Rocky Mountain, and today I'm going to show you how to change the air filter on your Honda Transalp XL750. Now you should be doing this at least every 12,000 miles and more frequently in dusty or wet conditions. Now I do want to point out this is a little more in depth than most air filter replacements, just because there's some body panels that you have to remove sequentially to get to your air filter. It is a little bit of work, but it's still pretty simple to do. You just have to be patient and take the time to get it done, and it's going to save you quite a bit of money over taking the bike into the dealership. So with all that being said, let's go ahead and get started. To get this done, we have some common hand tools, including an 8mm socket, 5mm Allen. We've got the number 2 JIS screwdriver, a small flat blade, safety glasses, rubber gloves, rags, an impact driver. Now optionally, you can use some grease and contact cleaner. And if you need to replace your filter, we've got the OEM replacements available on our website. You can click the link in the description below if you need one. The first thing we're going to do is remove our seat. And that's going to allow us to remove both of these side panels. We're just removing the 2 bolts, and then there's 2 prongs underneath. We're going to pull this out and then slide the panel back, and it's going to come off. Next, we're going to remove both of the fairings. You've got 2 trim clips in the front on each side. The top one is going to be a little more shallow, and we just need to press in on the button right in the middle. We'll pop that out. After that, we have 3 bolts on the side. Then we have 2 prongs underneath. We'll pull back on the panel, loosen those up, and then pull the panel forward. Now we're not going to be able to remove the panel at this time because we have our crash bars on, but we will do that in a later step. Next, we need to remove the dash panel. We've got 2 bolts in the top, and then we have 2 trim clips in the bottom corners. We'll go ahead and remove those. Next, I'm going to reach up just above the front fender and push out towards the back of the bike on the dash panel, and that's going to release the 4 prongs from their grommets. Now behind that, we have a cover that it wraps around all the way and covers the front of the tank. So we need to remove 2 bolts in the front, and then we have 2 trim clips that are just in front of the gas tank. Now we're going to lift up on the back of the cover just a little bit and then push the whole thing backwards. Then we can go ahead and remove it. Since we have our crash bars on, we're going to have to loosen up these turn signals. There's an 8mm head bolt that we're going to remove on each one. We'll lay those down and then pull these fairings out. Now we completely removed the dash panel so you can see this process, but it is not necessary to do that. Now we can pull our fairings out. Next, we have this plastic panel on each side of the tank, and we've got 1 clip and then several bolts holding it in place. And with all the hardware removed, pull out, there's 2 prongs just underneath the tank on these. And the right side is going to have a harness retainer. We're just going to use our needle nose pliers to pop that out. Next, we have 2 bolts on each side holding the tank in place. So first one on the side, we're using our 8mm socket to remove that bolt. Now this next one is really hard to see, but it's right behind this tab right here. If you follow that up in, you're going to find a bolt with a 5mm Allen head. We'll go ahead and remove that. And then we'll go do the same thing on the other side. Now that we have everything out of the way, we can lift the tank up. To do that, I have a tie down strap to my top rack in the back. And then you'll notice that I have this buckle. It's also towards the back. I don't want to scratch the tank. We also have a soft hook up here, but if you don't have one of these, make sure you cover the tank with a rag or blanket or whatever you have. But we're gonna lift this up, and there's a limiter strap on this right-hand side. So it's only gonna go so far back. So what I'm gonna do on one of these forward mounts, I'm gonna hook my tie down on, and that's wide enough. This isn't gonna slide off. And then I'm just gonna tighten this up. And that's gonna allow me to work underneath the tank and get that cover off. Now that we have access, before I pull the cover off, I wanna wipe everything down just to make sure that I don't drop any dirt down the intake once that cover's off. And then on this airbox lid, we have a sensor. So that's the IAT, or intake air temperature sensor. There's a little tab on the back. You're gonna press in on that and then pull it straight backwards. Then we'll remove that wiring from its holder. And then we can go ahead and remove all the screws all the way around the perimeter. Now with the cover off, you wanna take a look down in its groove and make sure the seal down in there is still in good condition. And you wanna pay attention if there's any dust in here or on this side of the filter, that means obviously you've got a leak somewhere or something's going on. You need to find out why, but ours is nice and clean. We're looking good. So we're gonna go ahead and remove the filter by removing the screws holding it in place. Before I pull those screws out, I'm actually gonna put a clean rag in each intake tube, just to prevent any dirt or possibly even those screws from falling down in there. There's 2 screws on each side and then 1 on the bottom. And this filter is gonna pop up. And I also wanna point out there's a seal in the groove where the filter sits. If you did have dirt getting past the filter, take a close look at that. Now over at the bench, we're going to inspect our filter. Again, the service interval in the manual is 12,000 miles, and that's fine if you're just cruising around on street, but if you're off-roading at all, I recommend inspecting this more frequent. So if the bike is starting to feel choked up, or if you're around 3,000 or 6,000 miles, I'd be taking a look at this filter and making sure it's not packed with dirt. So the first thing you wanna do to inspect it is check the paper for any tears. And then to make sure this isn't packed with dirt, the easiest way to do that is hold it up to the light. If you see plenty of light coming through these pleats, you know it's clean and you can reuse it. But if it starts to darken up or you see hardly any light coming through there, you know it's packed and needs to be replaced. So with that, I'm gonna hold our new filter up. You can see there's a little more light coming through the new filter, but again, this one on my left, there's plenty of light coming through and it's gonna work just fine. Now, if it is packed with dirt, some paper filters you can blow out with compressed air. These ones you can't. This is a viscous filter. And with those, it has a dust adhesive on there. So that's the reason you can't blow these ones out. You just replace them with a brand new one. Now, before I put the new air filter in, I'm gonna clean the side of the air box that is before the filter. Even though it doesn't have to be perfect, it's still a good idea to wipe it out and get it spruced up a little bit. I've got a little contact cleaner on a rag doing that. Now we've already inspected this rubber seal, but I do want to point out if you're in really dusty conditions, it's not a bad idea to apply just a little bit of grease around this seal, and that's going to help prevent any dirt from getting past there and down your intake. For us, we weren't having any issues with that, so I'm just going to put this back in place. We already checked and made sure that seal is in good condition. We'll go ahead and install the screws. Now we can remove both of these rags from our intake tubes and install the cover. Next, we're going to route our sensor wire and plug it back in. Make sure it's clipped on all the way. Now underneath the tank, we're going to make sure everything's still connected. We actually had a vent line come undone, so I'm going to pop that back on and lower the tank. Now for assembly, it's going to be very similar for both sides, so we are mostly going to be focusing on this left side. We're starting with the tank hardware. We've got that longer bolt going into the mount. You might have to move your tank around to get it to line up. Next, we've got the stepped collared Allen bolt that's going to be going in the side of the tank. And I just want to point out that there's only going to be 2 of those stepped collared Allens that are longer, and those are going to go in the dash panel. So we'll go ahead and thread that in place. I'm just going to go ahead and do those same things on the other side. Now the one thing different on the right side is you have this little fastener to hold up some wiring right here. We're just going to clip that in. Now for the lower tank cover, I want to point out this piece of plastic is going to sit in between that groove right there. So keep that in mind as you're setting it in place. This is going to press on to the lower part of the tank. And we have the one trim clip on the outside, and the rest are going to be the screws. And if you have the crash bars like us, you want to get your fairing in place and sitting loose. Then we can reinstall that bolt into our turn signals. Now for the upper tank cover, just pay attention to the hooks across the bottom on each side. You want to set those in place. You're going to push the piece forward. That's going to lock it in place. And then the cutouts are going to sit over the threaded portion of your tank. And it should also clip into place on the bottom. So ours is looking good. We've got 2 collared bolts in the front, and then we have the 2 push rivets in the back. Now we can set the dash panel back in place. So we have the 2 hooks at the bottom, and then we've got 4 prongs as this sets all the way into its mounting location. So here's where we're going to use the 2 longer collared bolts. Then don't forget the trim clips in the corners. Now for the fairings, you're going to start in the front. There's 2 tabs to hook into place, and then you've got 2 prongs across the top. Push those in place, and then we've got the 3 silver bolts. So the longest one, that's going to go at the bottom. Then we've got a stepped bolt that is going to go towards the front. And the last short bolt is going to go in the back on top of the tank. Now for the 2 trim clips in the front, the stubby is going in the top location, the regular in the bottom. Now for the side panels, we've got the 2 hooks in the back and the 2 prongs. Go ahead and slide that into place. Lock it down, and then we've got the 2 collared bolts on each side. After that, I'll reinstall the seat. So that's it for replacing the air filter on your Honda Transalp XL750. If you have any questions about the process, leave those down in the comments below. I know these panels kind of can be a hassle, but this is going to save you some time and money from having to bring the bike to the dealership, and you probably learned something new about your bike. So there are some benefits to it. Now, with all that said, if you need an air filter or anything else for your bike, whether it's accessories or other maintenance items, we have that stuff on our website. Just click the link in the description below. We offer free shipping on orders over $75, so take advantage of that and subscribe to our channel for more helpful content. I'm Charles with Rocky Mountain ATV MC. Thanks for watching.